thinks of Portland when I think of
right,
Oregon,
automatically.
but we do have other cities. So yeah, Portland has a few districts up there. We have 6 congressional districts in Oregon, just to give folks an overview of the landscape here. Other states have many more, but we have 6. So yeah, and I'm running in the 4th. We have 3 Greens actually running. We have Greens running in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th districts this time around.
Oh, that's very cool. So this is welcome everybody to the Illinois Green Party series. I'm your host, David Rich. Got a special guest on tonight, Justin Filip, Green Party candidate for Oregon Congressional District number 4, as he was just explaining. Okay, dude. Well, welcome to the show, and we already got a little bit of an update there. Why don't you go ahead and tell everybody like how you became a Green Party member? What got you involved in the first place?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me, and yeah, sorry I jumped the gun on that.
Okay.
But what brought me to the Green Party? I mean, honestly, Ralph Nader was one of the first people that brought me to the Green Party. I voted.
First time I heard of the Green Party.
Yeah, was proud to. I had previously voted for Bill Clinton as a 18-year-old, and then again as a 22-year-old. But I just didn't like what I had been seeing in the rightward shift of the party since like the Jimmy Carter era, even though I was very young at that time. But yeah, I liked a lot of things Ralph had to say. It made a lot of sense. And then the more I got to know the Green Party, the more I liked it, the whole platform.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, no, I remember that was the first time I heard about the Green Party. I really liked Ralph Nader. I'm pretty sure that was the Al Gore one, right?
Yeah.
I think I was still voting Democrat at the time. But I also voted for Bill Clinton twice. And you were 18 in 1992, I'm guessing. So we're about 4 years apart. So now I know about how old you are. So that's cool.
Just turned 50 a couple days ago.
Yeah, I was earlier when I first saw you on here, I thought I was just kind of thinking like, oh, he's probably in his like late 20s, early 30s. So good for you. You look.
Thanks. Good. Yeah, I get that you're the young candidate all the time, and I don't bother to correct it.
Yeah, hold on to that because it does go away. Very cool. So the Green Party. And so, what year did you become a member? You said 2020, right?
Oh shoot! As far as being consistently registered as a Green, I was kind of on and off. I did the whole thing where I would try to influence and push the Democratic Party during primaries and register as a Dem. Did that whole thing for a while and kind of done with that at this point. Since 2020, I think I've been without interruption registered as a member of the Pacific Green Party here in Oregon, and I immediately tried to get involved, just volunteering and seeing what I could do to help out.
Yeah, that's very cool. So, I actually joined. It'll be 4 years the week after the election. That's why I joined right after last presidential election. I was actually in the Libertarian Party, and I had won the Illinois primary for Congressional District number 10 up here for the Libertarian. Of course, I didn't win. And I just, through the track of it, I just got discontent with it because I like a lot of the things the Libertarians have to say, but nobody seemed to give a crap about the environment. And and whenever I'd ask, they'd be like, okay, what about the environment? They'd be like, oh, the markets will fix it. I'm like, that's just the dumbest answer ever. So I eventually after the election, because I already committed to running, I switched to the Green Party. Yeah, it'll be 4 years November. So that's cool.
4 years. Yeah. So yeah, right around the same time. Yeah, no, I think we have a lot of overlap with the Libertarians, especially when it comes to foreign policy. And, I think
they're anti-war, as are we. They're
foreign
policy. They're very big on your individual right to choose and your bodily autonomy, and that's very important to me, at least as a Green Party member.
Deregulation, laissez-faire, that whole thing, I just don't think is a great. I'm not down with that approach.
Well, I was just going to say they have some odd views of economics, and yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's very cool. So since 2020, you've been more active, if you will. And before running for candidate, for running your campaign, what were you doing that was considered active?
Well, let's see. I think I was first nominated to the state coordinating committee here in Oregon. Yeah, and again, we go by Pacific Green Party here in Oregon. But
that's right.
So there was a vacancy, and so the existing state coordinating committee named me as a fill-in. So I did that for like to fill out the last year of another member's term. And then the membership elected me to a 2-year term in 2022. And I just finished that, serving my term in January of 24 and transitioned immediately into the secretary role. So now currently the secretary of the Pacific Green Party. And I was also elected as a delegate to GP US. So I'm a national, I represent the Pacific Green Party and Oregon there.
Neat.
So yeah, I mean, and then tried to get like the chapter going here again in Eugene, which was sort of dormant at the time. There wasn't a whole lot going on. And so a couple friends that were longtime Greens that I had known here locally, we just started having like coffee hour at the local coffee house and inviting people to come down. And so, yeah, in addition to my like role at the state level, we've been trying to do a lot more locally.
Well, that's very cool. Yeah, no. So here in Lake County, Illinois, where I am, there's like I think two other people that are Green Party members, and they're both new. We're trying to get a county chapter going here, and it's just a matter of getting our schedules to align. Really.
Yeah, it's tough, and like we were talking about before we officially started, there's folks out there with this idea like, why aren't Greens doing this or why aren't Greens doing that? I mean, Greens are us. We are the Greens.
Right.
Like nothing's happening if people don't do it. Like
right.
Someone's got to actually get off the couch and do something.
Right.
Sitting around waiting for other people to do the work and then criticizing those volunteers for not doing enough, it's a bit frustrating to hear those things. So I want people to understand, like, if they want the Green Party to be better, like, please get involved. Like, we could use the help.
Yeah, no doubt. And again, just to reiterate, we are a political party. So if you have any penchant at all for running for office, please raise your hand and say something. Because, the administrations of your county or state chapters or whatever will help you get there, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, like, again, people say, like, why don't you run more local candidates? Well, we are always looking for candidates. So, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, no, for sure. And local can be a much more, I don't know what you want to say, like efficient or accessible position to hold, because first of all, it's not going to take up as much as your time. I guess it depends on the position and what you mean by local. Like if you're gonna get elected to a lake or a county board, that's like a full-time job. But like if you're gonna like get to a village board, probably not a full-time job. That kind of thing. And so you can continue on with your life, because one of the fears of running for politics for people who don't have, say, a lot of wealth, monetary wealth, is that they're going to have to give up their job for 2 to 4 to 6 years or whatever else. And after that, what are they going to do? Kind of thing. So it's a scary prospect long term.
No, I mean, you bring up a great point. Like that's just yet another hurdle that we have to clear as a party. Another potential roadblock is that, yeah, we're all doing this like for free. We're all like basically volunteers, and running for office is a rich man's game. I mean,
right.
Too often only the rich can afford to have the time and the money and the means to run for office. So that needs to change.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because I brought this up not too long ago on the show that like we have based on principle, which is good, but I think a specific obstacle opposed to or versus the duopoly candidates is that we're not allowed as Green Party candidates to receive donations from like bigger corporations or anything like that. It's got to be all individual grassroots stuff, which is very, very cool. But I mean, as far as that goes, money in politics is a very powerful tool. And we don't have access to that tool. And again, it's based on, it should be that way. And no politician should be able to receive lobbying in politics and money in politics. I mean, we can talk about that for, a year, but stuff like that. And some people think that we should actually, as a Green Party, as a national party, we should change that we should at least allow a certain, a certain amount of size of a corporation and lower, but not higher. So you're not taken from the Amazons and the, Monsantos and stuff like that, but and they have to be consistently green and that kind of thing. But I don't know. That's a conversation for another day. Any thoughts?
I mean, yeah. Well, my thought on the earlier comment is we're not allowed to take corporate money. I don't want corporate money for one.
That's what I'm saying.
But you also make a good point. Like there is a differentiation. Like corporate status is technically just, it's did you check certain boxes? Like
Right.
not all
An
corporations
individual
are, like you
person
said,
can be incorporated.
right.
Right.
So, and like this is like when we talk about small businesses, like when we get into like what is a small business, there's some pretty big businesses that go under the label of small businesses by governmental definition. So, that's a good point. It's something perhaps we could re-examine, but rather than do that, what I would like to encourage, and I know getting the two major parties on board for this will be next to impossible, but public financing of elections, I think, is what we really need.
Oh, absolutely.
To level the playing field.
Absolutely.
Just forget all the, that's truly the only way to level the playing field, in my view, is for publicly financed elections. Do not let outside interest straight up buy elections. That's what they do. If you can just dominate the airwaves, if you repeat a lie enough, people will believe it, that whole thing. So, yeah, I would rather see us go that route. But
no, that's 100%. I absolutely agree with that. Yeah, I was not too long ago, I was having this conversation with somebody about like public funding of elections, from the local to the county to the regional to the state to the federal. If you want to run for a candidate, even like in your local town, say, you get, each candidate receives, for whatever office, receives X amount of money. You cannot receive any donations or sponsorships from anybody else, and you're not even allowed to use your own money. Everybody gets the same amount, and that's it. That's
X amount of airtime, equal time.
Yeah.
We fight that too. We don't
get anything.
I love that you're doing this, and we're going to share this link because these are the opportunities that we have as Greens to sort of get the message out. But yeah, obviously the major media, it wants to purposely ignores us.
I will say, and I hope it's not merely because I'm looking for it, that it's actually objectively just a greater amount of times happening. But I am seeing more Greens on more podcasts, like much more popular than this one. The Hill, they had Jill Stein on, which is an up and coming source for sure. Sabby Sabs, and now Brianna Joy Gray, who got fired from the Hill, and now is very pro Green Party. You see Jill Stein on CNN and stuff like that, and you saw Nader, of course. That was like 20 years ago or something. But he kind of kicked the whole thing off. So I think you're seeing the profile of the party, I think, is growing incrementally and perhaps slowly, but it is growing.
I think so. I think more people are getting on board with this idea that the two major parties are, quite frankly, owned and operated literally by billionaires and corporations.
Oh yeah.
And so it's just they have different interests than the working class and that we do, and they're not there to really work for us. We're not who they care about. Who they care about is the donor class. That's not us. And if you're giving them money, please stop giving them your money. Yeah, exactly. Anyone out there, keep your money. So, but yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so that's a good segue into District 4. You live in Eugene proper. First of all, what area does District 4 cover? In case anybody knows any of the towns or cities in Portland or in Oregon. I'm always going to call it Portland. But not on purpose. And what's going on there? Like, what kind of like specific local issues are you tending to?
Yeah. So I think it's like 17,000 plus square miles. So District 4 is pretty big. Along the coast, we're about an hour inland from the coast. Eugene is. We call it like the Willamette Valley. Sort of runs north-south, like all the way up to Portland. Then there's the coastal range and then the coast. So anyway, but our district, the 4th district, starts on the coast at the California border, runs all the way north of Lincoln City. So it's going to include all those coastal towns in between, Newport, Florence, Brookings, for all you Oregonians or people familiar with Oregon. And then inland, then it starts getting that weird congressional shape where it's just like, Salem is outside of our border. It's not. So if you're in Salem, you're not in my district. But if you're in Corvallis, you are. If you're in Eugene, you are. Springfield, yes, that's right next door. But I had folks at Pride this weekend. We were tabling out there, and they're like, "I'm not sure if I'm in your district. Where'd you live?" I'm like, Springfield, which is like the town next to. You definitely are in congressional district 4. So I mean, yeah, not all voters obviously are well acquainted to district boundaries or even the whole concept of the district. So, but yeah, pretty big district. A lot of ground to cover if I want to get out and talk to everybody. And there's a difference. You talk about like what's important. I mean, I think rural Oregonians feel a real urban-rural divide in Oregon. They feel like their interests aren't really listened to, and I think that there's some legitimacy to that. Politics are dominated by Portland and Salem and Eugene, the major blue dots and on a typical map. But yeah, we've got a lot of farmland. We got Fisher, the fishing industry out on the coast. It's a big one. Forestry is always a hot topic in Oregon in general. So yeah, trying to sort of like take their concerns seriously. But I think we do have a lot of positions that would resonate with those folks. I mean, I think they need clean air, land, and water to do what they're doing out there if they're farming and fishing. That's got to be important to them as well. So just talking to them about which regulations specifically, or are we talking about if there's an issue with regulations? In the more metropolitan areas, although you're seeing it in small towns too, the homeless issue is a big issue. I think we're like Oregon's, near the top of the list in states with the unhoused population. I think someone threw out a stat today, or just this last week, some advocates that I was talking to. I think Eugene is per capita, we have more unhoused folks in Eugene than anywhere in the entire
more than
country.
Portland.
Per capita.
I mean, I believe you, but it's just, I mean, Portland's, I guess, got I remember when I lived there again 9 years ago, there was definitely a homeless problem, if you will, issue. But since I left, my friends say it's just grown like exponentially. But okay, so you're saying,
well, yeah, and I think it's going exponentially across the country. I mean, everyone's feeling the pinch.
Sure.
Our housing market's going crazy. It's going up, which is maybe good for some folks, but it's pricing a lot of people out. There's a lot of issues. There's a lot of reasons why the homeless issue is the way it is. I don't think you can pin it all on one thing, but
sure.
Yeah, and Portland's probably up there. Yeah, they're probably way up there right with us. So yeah, someone fact check me, but I'm pretty sure. I think we are. If we're not number one, we're like top 5. So
yeah,
not something you want to be number one in. So that's a huge issue here. And then we've got 2 major campuses within the district, in the University of Oregon here in Eugene, and Oregon State University in Corvallis. And obviously, we've had a huge pro-Palestinian protest movement. So even though that's a foreign policy issue, it's a big issue here locally among activists and among students. And I was pretty involved in that whole thing too. So those are the big ones. We're trying to focus on the folks that really don't get a voice in government. And right now it's sort of the Palestinians and the unhoused. We're sort of running a campaign to be their voice, because right now the Democrats and Republicans are not doing that for them.
Well, definitely. Okay, very interesting. With you said we're talking to some of the people that live in like rural areas, and the farmers and so on, their need and want for clean environment, and generally speaking, air, soil, water, that kind of thing. Everybody wants that, and farmers especially need it. So your conversation with them, because rural tends to go red. Like you were saying, there's a divide between rural and metropolitan areas like Portland and stuff like that. And that seems to be the case in most states, if not all states. Like I know there's an actual like formidable movement going on in Southern Illinois right now, which is like almost all rural, to literally secede from the state because they're tired of Chicago running their lives. I mean, I interviewed a guy at my radio show. I don't remember what the name of the movement is, but I mean, like, board members and politicians are like signing up for this thing. So like, it's a thing.
Oh, it's a thing here. Yeah. Greater Idaho, Eastern Oregon, there's all the buzz of Eastern Oregon wants to join up with Idaho. And
Right.
like, you realize Idaho's even a more poor state than Oregon, right? But okay. So yeah, it's a thing here as well, for sure.
Right. So what's the conversation with some of these rural residents like? That, I mean, because again, like I said, they tend to go red. You're very left. So like, I mean, what is the conversation's fruitful?
I think they can be. I mean, at the end of the day, am I going to help them not punch that, pull that lever for the Republican? I don't know, but I think there's some very powerful things in play there, like abortion. I think a lot of people are just one-issue voters, and no matter how much you agree and everything else, they're just going to pull the lever for pro-life or whatever. So it is what it is. But I think I often have conversations with people, and I try to purposely leave labels out of the conversation, party labels, conservative versus leftist. I just talk in like real talk. And I find that we have like a lot of common ground. I get guys that I know are way more conservative than me agreeing with me. Because it's like common sense. Like I say this all the time, like, leftists get criticized, like you guys have these pie in the sky ideas that aren't very realistic. And I think we are actually the most realistic people on the political spectrum about what our problems really are and what it's going to take to fix them. So yeah. I mean, I think, they're the more conservative rural folks. I mean, they have empathy. To think that they have none, it's just, while it's not always on display. Yeah, I don't know. But, but the whole red versus blue thing, everyone just becomes a team player, and they kind of dig in their heels on whatever. I mean, we had, right? It was how long ago? It was just a little over 4 years ago, we had Democrats being like, can you believe Trump? He said that if he shot someone on Fifth Avenue, he wouldn't lose any votes. Can you believe these Republicans still voting for him? Don't they have any decency? Don't they have a red line? And now we've got Democratic administration enabling a genocide. And Team Blue is digging their heels in, defending it. And it's like, how am I supposed to view you as any different than these other people?
Right. I mean, Trump made one hyperbolic, hopefully figurative statement about like just how popular he was. It was like when John Lennon and the Beatles said, we're bigger than Jesus Christ. He didn't mean anything weird by it. He just is like kind of stating a fact.
It was a hypothetical.
It was
right?
a hypothetical.
Still,
like, yes, the Biden administration is enabling the slaughter of children and women, and anybody is bad. But I mean, it's crazy. No, you're absolutely right. It's nuts.
People dig their heels in so hard, but I feel like Greens were uniquely positioned in that we are neither of those things, and we can have common ground with the working class, that we're not, we're not like the enemy, because the media does stoke those, they hype it up. I mean, are there real concerns about a Trump administration? Sure. I think there are. Does it get sort of overblown? I think, yes, it also gets a little bit overblown, and vice versa. Like, this idea that Biden's some sort of communist, like, I wish. It's laughable. Like, come on. The guy's a huge capitalist.
He said it. He explicitly stated that he's a capitalist and he's a moderate Democrat, which makes him not a progressive. And
so they make these caricatures of the other side, right? Like,
right.
When neither of them are really true. They're just like such huge exaggerations of what's actually the case. So, yeah.
When I was taking my critical thinking class in college, which was like a prereq to like the logic class, we went over like logical or just rational fallacies of reasoning. Okay, like that kind of thing. And like the biggest source of fallacy stated is in politics. It was politics and then advertising, in that order. Like there's this thing fallacy called the ad hominem, and it's ad hominem abusive or ad hominem circumstantial. Abusive is when you attack the person making the argument and not the argument itself. Blah blah blah. That's like. Mm-hmm. Half of the political discourse right there is well what this person did this, well, like, okay, what about their policy or their arguments that they made? Would you stop attacking the person, that kind of thing? So go ahead.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Attacks based on appearance or other things like, I mean, it's just it's not really substantive, is it? So
no, it's not, specifically not.
And and it just sort of sinks us even lower and lower into like
it's repulsive. It's absolutely repulsive.
Yeah. So I mean, how much success can I have with rural Oregonians? I don't know. Like going back to that, but like we're not the Democrats, so that's one thing in our favor, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. We're just trying to resonate. I mean, if you want, like, the Republicans, Democrats try to position themselves as working class parties, but they're literally, all their campaigns are literally funded by CEOs and
it's unbelievable.
Mega donors.
It's so blatantly like just nonsense, hypocrisy, and con.
Yeah. To think these donors don't expect some sort of return on their investment, I think would be
that. Easy, right? There was. I remember the prime. I must have been a primary. Before the primary, where Bernie Sanders was debating Hillary Clinton, and because he doesn't take big corporation money,
super PAC money or whatever.
So he was calling her out on it, and the Wall Street, companies or firms, whatever, donating all this money to her. She's like, well, it's not like I'm just going to do what they asked me to do because they're giving me money. He's like, why do you think they're giving you money? He's like, this is ridiculous. He's like, just don't call us stupid and insult our intelligence like that. We know that's how it works. And I was like, wow, good for you.
Yeah. We actually had the Democratic nominee for state treasurer come to our convention asking for a green co-nomination. I was like, all right, hell no. But, I mean, big F, like they asked her about BDS and she, wouldn't support BDS. So like F on that. And then they asked her about campaign finance reform and she insisted that it didn't matter that she got all these like corporate donations, that it had no influence on her vote whatsoever. It's just like, I mean,
that's just nonsense.
Who
I mean, it's just ridiculous. Like, okay.
Yeah, like you said, you think you're stupid? Like, come on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Really? Okay. Yeah, they're just giving they like your smile. All right, so we got some people watching. We got Sip Sauce here, which is Ariel. Hello, dude. Weeds Gaming says hello and asks, does Justin use TikTok?
Oh, man, no. I mean, my campaign made me, and Ariel actually was part of it.
He's a part of everything.
Yeah,
he's awesome.
Yeah, I know. It was probably something I needed to be pushed to do. I mean, I was, like, man, I can barely handle Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and now you want me to add TikTok to it? I mean, I'm Gen X. You're asking a lot from me. So
no, exactly. Like I'm so happy for a multitude of reasons, but included in those is Ariel's technological savvy and social media savvy, because I barely know what I'm doing here.
Yeah, but I understand there's a huge audience. There's a huge audience out there that we need to get ourselves in front of. So I get the need for it. Actually,
huge.
Yeah, there's a graduate student here at the University of Oregon, and she's agreed to help me out. I said, cool. I'm giving you the reins of the TikTok account. Just make it what you will. And she's like, do you want me to run all the posts by you? And I'm like, I don't want to micromanage it, So we'll see what happens. But she's just recently taken that over, and so I was like, maybe if you work on campaigns, if you want to keep doing this sort of work in the future, put in your resume or whatever. But yeah, I appreciate Madeline's help, and we'll look forward to seeing what she does. But we're new to TikTok.
Yes, cool.
I think you can find us at Justin for Congress, the number 4.
Justin for the number 4 Congress. And what was I going to say? Are you a professor at? U of O? U of O?
Staff member. Yeah. And so I don't know if you want. I mean, that's an interesting story. Yeah. So I mean, I was just recently terminated from the University of Oregon for my involvement with the student encampment and the protest against the genocide in Palestine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell the story, please. That's it. Okay.
So yeah, but I am re-employed by the University of Oregon currently, so don't feel too bad for me. But it's been kind of a wild ride. Yeah. So I mean, as everyone who's followed the news, I guess, saw, like, the things at Columbia and all the different campuses across the United States, and then at UCLA, just before our students at the University of Oregon decided to start an encampment. They had been doing actions on campus for a while, like die-ins in the student union, different actions, but they hadn't started an encampment at this time. And you being from Oregon, you kind of know what the weather is like in like February, March. In Oregon. It's not the ideal camping conditions.
No.
So
cold and wet.
Right. So UCLA had theirs, where the cops came in. You saw like the brutality. Some of the students were shot with like rubber bullets, which I don't know if you saw what a rubber bullet is. I mean, those suckers are like big, and they're rubber coated bullets. Like, they're messing people up. So we had just seen all that stuff on the news, and our students decided to start an encampment. And so, very quickly, like, me and a few other staff members and a few faculty members were just like, hey, we need to like rally people to sort of like protect the students and support the students. So we started our own group. So the students had a group called the Students for Justice in Palestine, SJP. There's been a lot of acronyms. Yeah. And so sort of in solidarity with them, we started a U of O, University of Oregon, faculty and staff for justice in Palestine. And we wrote, the president was not being very supportive, as you can imagine. Each statement that came out of his office was sort of worse than the one before. We would write responses to all of these, pointing out, how his reasoning was sort of flawed. He said he couldn't call it a genocide, but at the same time, he issued a statement on like October 8th or after October 7th. He called the actions of Hamas genocidal actions. So he knows the word, and he had a very low bar for it to use it on like October 8th, for example. But in all the time that passed, in all the actions on the part of the Israeli government, I mean, he still couldn't be moved to call it that. Right. So the students were trying to, like, as they all were, do what they can to help bring an end to all this needless suffering. It's an atrocity. So, and part of that's economic pressure, right? Part of that's financial pressure, divesting from things. It was successful in South Africa. It was successful in the Birmingham bus boycott movement. So we're like, when you want to do something substantive, I guess that's one of the best things we could do, right? So in the students' world was the university world. So they're trying to put pressure on the university to divest all of it, its investments from any companies who would be sort of complicit in what was going on there. And there was, not much agreement, obviously, from the administration. They came out and said, like, basically, our investments make us too much money, so we're not doing anything. They said, in effect, money's more important than ethics. We don't care about the ethics of our investments because our top priority is just making the university as much money as we can, however we can. Yeah. So once they made that very clear, it became very clear to me what our strategy needed to be, which was to sort of inflict some financial pain on them. So there's a big fundraiser that they have every year. We're the Ducks. If anyone's not familiar with the University of Oregon, it's the Ducks. So every year they have a day called Ducks Give, and it's like their big fundraising push for the year. And this all happened while the encampment was going on. and I think the University of Oregon had, by the way, one of the longest encampments. It was one of the later ones to start, but it had one of the longest ones, even though like the first couple of weeks were just brutal, just raining hard, brutal conditions. These students put up with a lot. They're pretty tough. So anyway, yeah, so they had this big Ducks Give thing during the encampment, and so we said we tried to like have a campaign that says do not donate until Oregon divests from genocide. So we made some social media posts. I did about that. It was all just very logical to me. Like, if the argument is that we can't divest because it's more financially advantageous for us not to, then logically we had to make it less financially advantageous for them.
No, that's some good some good monetary leverage there. That's a good call. Like, okay.
I mean, so yeah. So anyway, I took like a 4-day. I took a 4-day weekend on like May 17th or something. It was like, and then I went up to Seattle, took the train up there, spent a couple of days, took the train back on Monday, just took like a 4-day weekend. And on the way back, I got a call from HR that said they wanted me to come in. And it's like, well, this is not good. So yeah, I went in and they said, yeah, you're the VP of University Advancement is recommending your termination because you violated all these policies. They're kind of vague. I had some help from law professors and some people in the law faculty there who sort of like gave me some guidance. So they're like, well, ask them specifically which policies you're supposed to be supposedly in violation of, and what else? Oh, in like what's the evidence? Like specifically what actions did I take part in that were in violation of these policies? So they came back and gave me like a list of policies I supposedly violated. I think some of them were a bit of a stretch, and then shared screenshots of my Facebook comments as the actions that were warranting my termination. And again, there was like maybe a half dozen of these. They were on the University of Oregon's posts about promoting their Day of Giving. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, and they were all and they also completely mischaracterized what I said in those posts. They said, you said don't give to the University of Oregon, and you said disrupt the University of Oregon's giving. I'm like, leaving out the whole genocide part, leaving out the whole reason why I wanted people to do that. And it was until, it was like, don't withhold your donations until the Oregon, University divest from genocide. So it was not that I wanted people to not give, but yeah, I was trying to use some whatever leverage we had available to us, right, to bring about change. So yeah, and then from there it was like a process. So that was like May 21st, and there was like a lot of back and forth and delays, and I mean I could speculate as to what was going on their end, but they ultimately called me in and they said because they could only recommend my termination. HR had to actually approve it or not approve it. We also pushed them that they skip steps. Like there's normal like procedures, like you would first talk to me about something, or we would have a discussion. There might be like a slap on the wrist of some sort, or maybe placed on probation or something before you move to termination. But they moved immediately to termination. They said that my action was a severe action. I pushed back. I said, if it's so severe, why haven't you deleted my comments off of Facebook? They're still up.
Yeah.
They were shocked. They were like, what? They're still up? Like, yeah. So if they were that harmful, if I was having, that much of a negative impact on the university, wouldn't you just delete them? I mean, you have the power to do that. So,
and they could also check to see if their like donation status had gone down considerably. Like if it hadn't, then obviously you had absolutely no effect.
Okay,
Right.
so you bring up a good point. So I had access to all that information, David. So I did a little research. So the year before Joe Buck, my boss, was the VP of University Advancement, that seat was empty. The previous VP of Advancement had just gone to the University of North Carolina, and they were looking for a replacement. So the year before, when we had no VP, I think they raised like $1.8 million. In this last Ducks Give, they raised about 1.4. So they're down like 400,000.
Yeah.
So then I dug a little deeper. So University of Oregon just joined the Big Ten, and there's a lot of excitement about that.
Yeah.
So I said, well, and also like if the encampment's going to have a negative impact on donations, who are the most likely donors in my mind to maybe like pull their money? Like it'd be like the sports guys, and it'd probably be the business school guys.
Right.
So I went and looked at, and I like sports, but let's just be real. So we went and so I looked at athletics. Giving to athletics was up 545% from the year before.
Wow.
Giving to the Lundquist College of Business was up like 240%, or I don't know, way up. So their giving was not negatively impacted in any way. In fact, their giving to those two units on campus was way up. So
probably despite people like yourself.
Maybe.
Like, okay, you want to do this? We're going to go ahead and give to the business.
I'm guessing. If I'm being honest, very few people probably saw my post. I probably had very little impact.
That's another argument.
I wish
in your defense.
Yeah, I wish I did, but if I'm being real, I probably didn't. So, so if you pull out athletics and business, and we just compared apples to apples, the rest of it, giving to everything else combined was down 51%.
Wow.
I would say that's a bad fundraising day.
Yeah, it's bad.
When your giving was down, by $400,000 from the year before, and then you're giving, if you pull out athletics and business, you're giving to like the College of Arts and Sciences and every program, every other program, College of Journalism, you name it, everything else, down 51%. So you underperformed, an empty chair by 51%.
That's crazy.
I'm guessing Joe Buck had like some explaining to do around why he had such a bad day. And they tried to spin it as like we had the most number of donations that we've ever had. I was like, that's some hell of a spin, because let's just look at the dollars. Yeah. He had a large number of donations because they had a competition among employees, like who could have the most donations. So there was a shit ton of $5 donations. So yeah, number of donations was up. Good job, guys. But the overall dollars way down.
Which is also.
So I feel like I'm, maybe I was a bit of a scapegoat in all of this. I don't know. And I think they're just not very, quite frankly, I just don't think they're very sympathetic to the Palestinian cause. They just don't give a fuck. So, excuse my language. But okay. Anyway.
It's okay. No, this is a private show. It's not public radio or anything.
Right.
So you're back there now, you said.
So yeah, in the same meeting where they told me they were actually going to move forward with the termination, they said, but we went and looked at your resume. And by the way, just months before all this happened, I got a glowing recommendation in a raise from my boss, citing like how collaborative I was, how innovative I was. So like I was, it was not because I was not a good employee. I was a very good employee. But so yeah, I don't know if they like were afraid of a lawsuit or
perhaps
what. Because I feel like if they felt confident in their position to terminate me, I don't know why they offered me anything, but they offered me a 6-month temp job. I asked them, will it be the same pay as what I was making before? They said yes. I said, will I still be receiving benefits? They said yes. I said, will my vacation time transfer over? They said yes. I said, okay. I mean, I do need to pay the bills. So thanks.
So they just reclassified your position as a temporary position. So are you doing the same job you were, or are you doing something else?
something else.
Oh, okay.
I mean, so they basically said we just can't trust you around donors anymore. It was like fair.
Oh, for God's sakes, that's okay.
I mean, I'll wear that one. I'll wear that one as a bit of a feather in my cap.
There you go. There you go. Be flattered.
Yeah. But yeah, so they placed me in another position. I'm actively looking for maybe something else. I don't think this is like, obviously it's not a long-term solution, but
right.
It's keeping me in my house for the time being. So.
It's keeping you right off the streets. Well, that's a very interesting story, and thanks for sharing it, because I know a lot of people who were involved in things like that. A couple, but with the college camps and stuff like that, and all the police raids. Well, Jill Stein actually got beat up almost by a cop. She wasn't in an encampment, but she was protesting with students. I think it was in Missouri. Yeah, I mean,
it was at St. Louis. I think it was Washington University in St. Louis.
Well, that's exactly right.
Visited before.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's happening. It's out there. I mean, they go after an elderly lady like that. That's just crazy. And we could talk about like just how American cops are just, oh my God. Anyway, but we'll have you back on to talk about like issues outside your campaign. How's that?
Well, thankfully, it never came to that at the University of Oregon. They broke up the encampment. They had an agreement. Part of the agreement, though, was that there was supposed to be amnesty for every faculty, staff, student involved in the encampment activities, that sort of all would be forgiven and we would be moving on. But apparently my case, for some reason, did not fall into that category. And they're currently going after some of those students that they said they weren't going to go after. Right now they're going after them for freaking chalking the sidewalk in the building.
There you go.
They're going after them for student conduct code violations, which is clearly just like sort of an intimidation tactic. I don't know why you would waste your time and everyone else's time going after someone for something you can just hose off.
Yeah.
But
ridiculous.
Yeah, it's silly. It's silly. I just think that the students will be coming back soon, and they were supposed to like bring in Palestinian speakers. They haven't really done much with that, as far as I know. I used to work with scholarships. They asked me about scholarship stuff. I said the first question I'd be was like, "Where's the money coming from?" Because we're supposed to. Part of the agreement was to have scholarships for 5 Palestinian students to come over here and attend school at the University of Oregon. So, the university is already sort of hedging on all the promises that it made in that agreement. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens when the students come back. I think it might get noisy again.
Ooh, that'll be interesting to see. Keep us updated. You work in a college atmosphere on a campus. I always had it in my head, like when I first joined the Green Party, that like it would just be really attractive to like college kids because they're more conscientious about rights and what's going on politically and internationally and especially environmentally. We're called the Green Party for a reason. Are you getting a large number and positive response from college students concerning your candidacy?
I haven't been too noisy about it. I've been sort of, so I'll take a step back real quick and just go back to like when we're trying to reestablish the Green Party here locally. Our approach has sort of just been to, let's just be good allies. Let's go out there and do the work. Let's walk the walk. And hopefully people will see that and want to get involved, So that's sort of the approach we've been taking. So we don't get involved in things that we don't genuinely care about. And we generally cared about this whole, Palestinian issue. And the Green Party Green Party has been on board with BDS since BDS started in 2007. We were very, very early adopters. We were on board with this from the get-go. So this has nothing to do with the Green Party. But what's most popular with the young folks, as you may know, is like DSA, and then there's YDSA. I think we have a young eco-socialist caucus or whatever, but maybe that's something that we could do better. I would love to have a chapter on campus, a student chapter. I've mentioned it to them. I said, hey, for our bylaws, 5 of you get together, you can form a chapter, for whatever reason, it's just not that appealing. I don't know. We're not, DSA seems to be more popular, but I don't understand that because DSA ultimately is just kind of like
well, they're not a
I like a lot of the DSA people, but it's just like a hipster club for Democrats. It's just like Democrats that want to feel progressive, but like, I mean, it's like an insider strategy. They're not their own party, right? They're
not a political party. They're a political organization.
They're not a political party.
Right.
Yeah, they're a political organization, but they have socialist in the title. I think that's more appealing to young people. They want to be sort of like attached to that whole idea of socialism versus capitalism.
As they should.
And I talk, and we're an anti-capitalist party, but we're not maybe as explicit with that message as, I don't know, maybe as we should be, quite frankly. We have the whole eco-socialist, thing within our party, but we've historically sort of shied away from being really outspoken about being socialist. We'll criticize capitalism, but we don't really throw.
I know people in the Illinois Green Party that are quite specifically made it clear that they're capitalists. They just understand capitalism. They have a different identity or interpretation of what capitalism is than I think what a socialist normally would, which is sort of like the acquisition or private ownership of capital and the exploitation of labor thereof. They wouldn't see it in such a negative light, They would say, no, it's actually just free market, or free markets tend to be better than overly regulated ones. I'm like, okay. So like, you're kind of like talking past each other. I know that the National Committee some time ago, technically, for whatever that means, labeled the Green Party as a libertarian socialist party. And libertarian socialism is a real thing. A lot of people think it's self-contradictory. It's not. Noam Chomsky, as far as I know, popularized the term. And we can talk again, maybe have you back on. We can talk about issues outside your campaign, because that's a huge thing. So, I mean, but I think people see that phrase, libertarian socialist, that's stupid, because that's a contradiction. I'm like, it's actually not if you sit down and think about it, but okay. So, So, okay, we only got like about 8.
Right. Sorry. People get lost in all that stuff, like communism is not really
what is communism mean? Right, exactly. They think it's just like tyrannical, Stalin's going to send you to the gulag. Kind of situation. A lot of people who are opposed to like any sort of socialism simply defer to the historical figures who tried to implement it, like Lenin and Stalin. And Stalin, Stalin did some good things, but he killed a lot of people. They go, look what Castro did, blah 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 blah, and they things. I'm like, that's not consistent with what I consider to be communism or socialism. Socialism is about human rights and in every possible way. And I don't know why. Go ahead.
Yeah, Castro, I think, did a lot of good things, and a lot of like socialist movements we've, had through foreign interference, overthrown socialist governments in Latin America over and over again. So like, we've had an embargo on Cuba, and yet Cuba still has like one of the highest literacy rates in the world. They
absolutely
developed their own vaccine during the whole COVID crisis.
Very resilient society and culture there. Yeah, and like you have the most European countries are socialist in one way or another. And there are, during the beginnings of the labor movement back in the 17 and 1800s, there were a multitude of different socialist schools that came out. So like I see, like I said, people, at least in this country, tend to think of socialism as merely like this sort of like tyrannical overarching government that's just very draconian, puppeteering all the markets. And that's maybe a school or two, but most of them were actually anarchists. Most socialist labor movements were anarchists. They wanted the workers to run the economy. Local communities will take care of their safety. There you go. We don't need governments. So like people need to do a little more research on that. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no. And just like, but talking about like why I'm a green, like, put all the isms, as Cornel West likes to call them, aside. We're the only party with like as much infrastructure and ballot access that is, decidedly against corporate interests, decidedly against, capitalist exploitation. We're the closest thing to a working class party that we've got in this country right now, you know? And that's why I believe it's a good vehicle for change. You know, I mean, it's so whatever you want to call it, socialism, communism, you know, these are all sort of like working class movements. And I think that's
100%.
what we are, you know?
100%, yeah.
So we can be a good vehicle for change. You know, what does the perfect alternative to our current capitalist society look like? I'm not sure that I have all those answers, because I don't know that anyone's ever really done it to, you know, the way that
there are so many different
like
options.
to see it done. Yeah. So, but we know it's not working, right? We know what's going on right now is not working.
No, it's pretty gross. Yeah. No, it's nasty. Okay, so like, let's see. Ariel said he can help you with that, Justin. I'm not sure what he's referring to. There are state chapters and Young Eco-Socialists. Yeah, we do have a Young Eco-Socialist. I know we have one here in Illinois, and I don't know who's in it or anything about it, other than they're supposedly young and they're eco-friendly and socialist. But I'm not aware of any actual individual members. But I would love to have them on this show to talk about that, because I think it's a fascinating thing, for sure. What about like, you know, the environment or climate change? I mean, you're running for a federal seat here, so this climate change is something you're going to have to contend with. What's going on in your district concerning that, or in your own opinion?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different ways we could answer that question, but like, I mean, as far as like feeling the effects, like, I mean, we've got
you got the wildfires.
We've got sea levels rising. I mean, if our rural neighbors out there on the coast want to keep their land, I mean, they have a vested interest in sort of addressing climate change, or else they're going to be literally underwater. Forest fires are a new season now, consistently in Oregon. We have forest fire season now. This wasn't the way when I first moved here in 1995. You know, the last few years, there's always we've been fortunate so far, knock on wood. We've had forest fires, but here in Eugene, I haven't experienced I mean, we've had like, you know, apocalyptic looking, like orange sun, ash falling on everything. You can't go outside. The air quality is so bad. That's almost become an annual event. It's terrible. So as far as like what's going on, like that's kind of how we're feeling the effects of climate change here locally. Like what's been done to address it? Well, I mean, I don't know. There's a few things that you know, one of the reasons we're running is our Democratic incumbent. I just don't feel like we can trust her completely on the environment. She's cast some votes since she's been in Congress. She's only been in Congress for 2 years. Before her was Peter DeFazio, who was like there for like 30 years or something crazy. So Val
DeFazio?
Peter DeFazio.
This sounds familiar for some reason. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Val Hoyle was elected in 2022. So she's been served as our representative for the last 2 years. But in that time, she's cast a few questionable votes. One was on mining lands and turning those over to private corporations. So I don't know about you, but I'm not down with just giving away our public lands to corporations.
No, I'm not down either. No, that's terrible.
This is all can be found on Ballotopedia, by the way, people. So that was a bad vote. There's a pipeline project on the coast that could potentially jeopardize. I mean, you know, wetlands, waterways. You know, things that they're citing the need for economic stimulation. Again, they're putting sort of money before the environment, which is before the people. The people need a clean environment. But they're, again, willing to jeopardize the environment to run this pipeline through, and Val's been supportive of that. It's called the Jordan Cove Project, and it's gone back and forth. Corporations keep coming back every so often trying to resurrect this thing. But yeah, again, so she again, I just can't trust her. Like she'll like, but she's part of the progressive caucus, right? Like she's so progressive. Like words have stopped meaning things apparently.
That's true.
Yeah. So so we're pushing her on some of those specific issues as regards to the environment.
All right, cool. Well, we are just about out of time, my friend. That was a very quick hour, which is usually a sign that I'm enjoying the conversation so thoroughly I'm not paying attention to the clock. So thank you very much for that. Let me type what. So just you see Justin Filip, Filip. Where can they find you online?
Good Polish name, by the way. I know you got a big Polish community over there.
In Chicago, yes.
Chicago and Wisconsin. So the website is www.justin4congress.org, not .com, justinforcongress.org. And then we also, you can find us under that similar Justin4 Congress on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok now, Ariel. We're on TikTok. You won't find too many videos yet, but stay tuned. But I personally manage the Instagram and Facebook accounts and Twitter. So that is me.
That is
We're
you.
hands-on here.
Very cool. That's great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Justin Filip, for coming on the show. And again, let's have you back on, maybe even closer to Election Day. Do you have the booking page link, or did somebody do that for you?
I'm sure I could dig it up again. Yeah. Or if you want to just send it to me again.
Okay, I can just probably send it to you.
Sweet.
And then I don't know. Ariel's making a laughing face. I'm not sure which part. I don't know what he's laughing at. But okay, he's a happy guy, which makes me happy. I
appreciate you both helping to spread the green word and to have all the candidates on like me to talk about what we're doing. And to remind folks that we're doing stuff as Greens. We're out there doing things.
Yeah, it's happening, folks. It is happening. It's a good time to get involved too. I mean, it's always a good time to get involved. But the notoriety of the Green Party is growing. It's growing, I think, in a very positive manner. We'll just, hopefully we can get some stuff done. So, all right. Well, thank you very, very much, everybody, for joining us on the Illinois Green Party series. I'm your host, David Rich, and we'll see you next time. Until then, be good, be green. Hold on a second, Philip. Oh, DeFazio. That's from Laverne and Shirley. I remember now.